Hi, Jamie Lynn from Heartfelt Horsemanship here. I am back to work after some weeks off having a hip replacement. So I'm excited to be back at work, and I want to share with you my first project coming back in. I can't ride yet, so I'm just doing groundwork and helping some of our easier horses along so I don't get myself hurt. This is Warrior. We call him Mouse. Warrior's been a part of our program since birth. He's just the sweetest little guy with the cleanest slate, very clean training. There's had nothing wrong with him. What I'm working on today is teaching him how to carry a bridle, how to put a bridle on, how to carry a bridle, and uh, how to accept what we're going to do. Let me explain why I'm doing this. So he's been in training for 6 months, just working on the rope halter. He can do all of his movements, he can disengage, he can back up, he can move out on a casual rein, but at some point his owners may wish to compete him and ride him with a snaffle or even develop him further up into a bridle. So today I am getting started with my snaffle, and it's the first time I've put anything in his mouth. This is the way that I would do it for a horse who's never had a snaffle or bridle on his face, and it's the way that I would correct a horse who has had problems with putting a snaffle on his face. Oftentimes horses are bridled rudely and have problems with that. So as you're going through this, if you have a horse who's hard to bridle, this very well may resonate with you and help you as well. And there's going to be a few videos. Let me explain why we're going to need a few videos to do this. I am not putting the snaffle on him today for him to wear a snaffle and say, cool, the horse can be ridden in a snaffle. The process that I'm going to take is going to take some time for him to be really comfortable carrying the snaffle. And let me explain why I need to take the time to work this over several videos. Though a lot of people wouldn't do this, this is how I personally find it best to be done, because I want him to be the best he can be, and I've got nothing but time to help him understand what this thing in his mouth is going to mean. So I need him to be able to carry the snaffle with his mouth gently closed. So what happens oftentimes when horses learn to pull against a bridle is, first off, it's usually caused by someone pulling on the reins without using their seat first. The second thing is people pull harder and harder and harder, and it inflicts pain on the horse, so the only way that the horse has to defend himself is to clamp down even harder on the mouthpiece and take control to protect themselves. What I actually want is I want the horse's mouth to gently rest around the mouthpiece and hold that mouthpiece. You know, if you think about making a fist around the mouthpiece of your bridle, if you grip it with a hard, tight fist, the way that a horse would clamp down their mouth, you're not going to be as sensitive to cues coming from the reins. If you're carrying that gently in the palm of your hand, you actually have so much more sensitivity by having your hands gently closed around that. So if you were to try and activate that bit, you'd stand a chance of feeling what it means. So that's usually what has gone wrong with most horses that fight the bridle. What I am trying to do for Warrior is set him up to not fight the bridle and have things go clean and well in the first place. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to make sure that my little friend can flex his poll, that he doesn't pull up and away from me. If his head's up in the air, I can't actually get to work with him and be able to handle his ears and put the bridle up over his face. So before I even think about the bridle going on his face, I want to see if I can have his chin drop, I can have his neck lower, and I actually want to make sure that his face gives me a bit of lateral flexion. The reason why is if his face is at a square angle to the ground, that means that his teeth naturally have a little bit of a gap when his poll is soft and his head is hanging, making it a little bit easier for him to feel the bridle come towards his mouth and actually push down and open the bridle and take the bit willingly on his own instead of doing something silly like clanking them in the teeth. You may see me stick my thumb on the side of his mouth and get him to open his jaw. With that, I want him to be in the right position for this bridle to come onto his face. I don't want to have to chase his head all over the air. in the air. I don't want to have to walk around with him. I don't want to have to get into a boxing match with him. I want to make sure I have some control over where he places his head in the first place. So I'm just going to play around with his head. I'm going to see if I can get his head over here into some lateral flexion. I'm going to touch the ears, and of course he's been in my program, so I know that he's got all the ingredients that he needs. If you're interested about my program, please know that we are accepting apprentices right now, and we're getting ready to roll for the year ahead of us. So do send us an email if you're interested in that program. To continue with Warrior, when we're inside of a horse's mouth, it's a very intimate place to be. So the first thing I need him to do is to be able to not spit my fingers out and try and fight me. You know, when horses first carry the bridle, they feel the bit come into their mouth as this cold, funny metal object, and it can be rather offensive to them. So if my fingers already offend him, I'm not going to move on to putting the snaffle in. I like to teach him that when there's something in his mouth, that perhaps his mouth should be quiet so he can be more comfortable and less irritated. If not, I'm going to spend the next hour with him trying to spit whatever it is out. And remember, our goal is to have him gently hold that bridle with his mouth closed and quiet. If he can't keep his mouth quiet here, I'm not going to be ready to go and put the snaffle on his face. So if this is all I got done in my session today, just working with the bridle, this would be a win. So just hang in here with me while I wait for him to accept something touching the bars of his mouth and his tongue. I want to make sure that I'm not pulling on his face. I just have my fingers between the canine and the molars where you have that nice flat bar. I make sure that I have my hand hooked here on the outside so I don't end up getting, sucked back in there with his tongue and having my fingers chopped. I just want to gently rest. I'm not grabbing his nose harshly. I'm just trying to rest my fingers on the bars of his mouth so I have a chance of him wanting to be quiet. So you can see he's doing a ton of licking and chewing, trying to figure out if he can evade this bizarre woman sticking things in his mouth. How would you feel if someone came up and tried to hook a thumb into your mouth? You'd want to understand why they were doing it. So that is my first step. Can you see how he's getting quiet here? I'm going to let him have a lick and chew because pressure motivates, release teaches. Your fingers are going to get green and dirty. Pressure motivates, release teaches. So I took my fingers out once his mouth started getting soft and quiet and he wasn't evading me. He licked and chewed instantly, which tells me that he is ready for me to try the other side. And I want to make sure that both sides and all of his mouth is friendly for me. So that's what I'm going to work on today, and I will continue with our videos tomorrow. Let me know if you have questions and send us an email and I'm happy to answer them for you.